No, yeah.
Red light. All right, fantastic. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to my workshop here. I'll briefly introduce myself again, although the PowerPoint kind of covers it. I'm a space shuttle systems engineer. I work with the payload manifest for Space Shuttle Endeavour. That's my bird, basically. We're scheduled to launch in February. It'll be the last flight of Endeavour because the U.S. Space Shuttle program is winding down. So that's what I do. I'm also an author of a book called Turning Point: How Space Exploration and Development Will Determine the Rise or Fall of Humanity. In case anyone's interested, I brought some with me. They're in the back, and it's $20 American. So I don't really care what the conversion rate is. I'll just take 20 or 15. I don't care about that. But if anybody wants to read about space exploration and development and understand the take on what it has meant to humanity up to this point, what it means to us in the future, the technologies that it has developed, and a lot of those technologies I'm going to end up talking about here. Because that's where you get the sustainability and the abundance. It's from the technological applications that we've invented over the course of at least the last 30 to 40 years. Have really made abundance possible. Any time before that, it hasn't been possible. And I just realized I'm not using the microphone. Any time before that, it hasn't been possible. So let's start off. Basic necessities of life, biological. Who here can just shout out or raise a hand or whatever, give me a typical biological need?
Water.
Water,
Oxygen.
air, oxygen, yes.
Food.
Okay, food,
Sleep.
sleep.
Energy.
Not necessarily. I'll explain why in a bit. Biological need. Now, if you're talking about energy as in biological, that's what the food provides, the food and the water, correct? So that's how you could look at it that way. Yeah, it helps with the melatonin and the skin and everything of that nature as well. It also helps with mental perception and attitude, and sunlight exposure. All right, so we got air, food, water, sleep, medical care. All right, got to be able to take care of yourself if you get broken. I consider that a biological necessity in order to maintain your life. So there's basically the strong 5 examples of biological necessities. So now what about quality of life necessities? Things that take you above and beyond just living. The biological needs keep the human being, the creature, alive. What about quality of life? Who can name off some of those?
Clothes.
Shelter, clothes, okay. What else?
Transportation.
Transportation,
Education.
education.
Internet.
I can go to your energy. Now is where the energy comes into play. We're talking about the electricity, the power, what drives the comforts that we have, the AC, the heating, things of that nature. So we've got shelter was covered, clothing, education, energy, transportation, communication. Pretty big, especially in today's world. We've learned that it's because of global communication that we have become a more interconnected and knowledgeable world. No longer are events isolated to small regions and you find out about it 2 months later via telegraph or something like that. It is now call up your phone and you know what's going on in the world in an instant. Or just hop online. So what about necessities for a sound mind and social state? What kind of things do you think would apply in this category?
Security.
Okay.
Social freedom.
Hmm?
Social freedom.
Social freedom, music,
Motivation.
motivation. Okay. All right. Purpose. What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you really want to do? Not what you have to do to pay the bills, because what you really want to do might not pay enough. That happens a lot in the arts. People just can't afford to do what they want to do for a living because it's not going to give them a high quality of life. So they settle for something else and they do their art as a hobby. But what would motivate them the most is their passion. is their hobby. For me, I'm a science technical geek. So that's my thing. That's what motivates me. I love space exploration. I love starships. I love satellites. I love studying Mars geography and thinking about lunar bases. And so that's what motivates me. Recreation, community, family, friends, colleagues. And with recreation, I guess I could put the arts and things of that nature, but that would also go into the purpose. So they can blend together. These kinds of things, this slide, a lot of these can interconnect. So now we're going to talk about abundance. And we're going to get back to that list here in a second, but we're going to detail that a little bit more. By far, the most important word with respect to mankind's ability to live peacefully on this earth is the word abundance. Abundance has been possible in small pockets. An island nation, if it has enough natural resources and a small population, can live in relative abundance to its condition. But I'm not talking about isolated pockets. We're talking about the world here at this conference. So, can we provide abundance of those needs that we just listed for the entire global population? Yes, we can. And I'm going to show you how. So what we're going to do is called a Gedanken experiment, or a thought experiment. And we're going to set up some premises on this, and I'll explain those. First is that we are living in a resource-based economy. What does that mean? A resource-based economy is independent of all money. There is no more monetary system. You don't work for cash to pay for stuff to live. The way the system is set up is that the technology that we have invented produces enough, more than enough, a surplus in some extent, because you have to account for percentage overlap, of every need that you need. And so given that, let me ask this question. If you have an abundance of food, does it have an intrinsic value? Yes. Does it have a market value? No, because it's an abundance. The same like you can't charge for air, because air is in abundance. If you had any product, service, or commodity available in abundance that you could readily go get anytime you want, it wouldn't have a market value. So by its very nature, abundance cancels the need for a system of exchange because there's no longer anything to exchange. There are no longer financial risks or concerns to stop or restrict the adequate use of technology. I don't know how many times I hear in the Space Shuttle program that we have budget issues. Even though we do amazing work, we deal with a space station up in space that does research on plants and biology and tries to figure out the human condition in a unique environment. It can grow crystals that can help with making better materials to be used on Earth. There are many experiments going on in space, but there's always a budget problem. Even though it's proved to be one of the most important endeavors that mankind has ever embarked upon, is space exploration, because of the technologies it has delivered. If it wasn't for space, you wouldn't have the cell phones, because you wouldn't have the satellite systems that relay the communication around the planet. The majority of human labor is phasing out as more robust automated systems are put into place, and people who wish to work in any field that can be automated are still more than welcome to do so. In other words, if you had a fully automated facility for a particular service, but somebody really still likes doing that, do it. That's fine. Whatever makes them happy. So let's look at abundant solution sets for biological needs. We'll go down this first.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I don't understand the word abundance. It sounds so much. Is there any German-speaking person?
Ich.
Ja,
Das heißt Überfluss.
Überfluss.
Das heißt, es sind Überflüsse vorhanden, deswegen jetzt keine Marktwirtschaft.
Okay, danke.
Thank you.
I have to speak German, English, French.
Okay, fantastic. I need to learn.
Simultaneous translation, because then I have difficulties listening and talking.
I understand. All right, so let's look at air. Air I kind of already touched on, right? Air is a naturally occurring thing. It's in abundance. It's out there. The only thing that would really mess up our air supply is completely destroying every amount of plant life on the planet that reverses
So what
carbon
about
dioxide.
clean air?
Clean air matters, yes. I mean, you can't live in dirty air, agreed. Again, that goes back to the plants, which are filtering mechanisms. Food. Let's give an example of an abundant solution set for food. A hydroponic vertical farm that takes up 1 acre of footprint in the ground has the equivalency of 400 acres of flat land. We can feed about 200,000 people, if not more. The technology is called the Omega Garden System.
Do you want to say things, or do you want to say things at the end?
Any questions and whatnot?
Yes, I'm just, you want to do it at the end?
Let me, sure, if you want to do that, absolutely. So consideration. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 1 acre of land can grow 20,000 pounds of potatoes. Potatoes are typically sold in 5-pound bags for a family. So by those numbers, 1 acre supplies potatoes for 4,000 families. Therefore, just one vertical farm building with a 400-acre equivalency would then supply potatoes for 1.6 million families. The average family size in America is 3 people, meaning 4.8 million people will be fed by this one potato building. All right, that's Houston, Texas, where I'm from, basically. That's about the geographic population number that we're talking about here.
So what is the nutrient level compared to the
The nutrient levels would be provided by the tapia fish that would be in the system that would provide the nutrients that would be filtered up through the pumps that would come down and hydroponically cover the plants that are involved.
Like they do already for tomatoes in the greenhouse.
Right. But this would just be an automated system of the robotics. The robots actually take care of the maintenance and the facilitation of the facility. The only time human labor is required is to build the initial facility and then monitor after that. And the computers actually can call you, much like luxury cars these days, can let you know when they're going to break down or when they need an oil change. They actually can page you or email you. Your car will do it. This building could be set up to do the exact same thing. So the technicians that would be interested in this kind of work and like doing this would be on call like doctors are. And so they would get paged if the building knows that it's coming up to a problem. Yeah, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, you also get like year-round crops. There isn't the problem of having to wait for weather conditions because it's by the temperatures and light is controlled by computers.
Right, it's a climate control facility. Yes. In fact, you don't need sunlight at all. The way the Omega Garden system works, it actually runs on an ultraviolet LED light that goes down the center of the cylinder that grows the plants. So every plant gets the exact same luminosity radiation of light. So they all grow to the same equivalency factor.
But what about taste? Will be uniform all over the world?
It'll be,
If you use them with the same nutrition in the substrate and same amount of artificial light, I prefer real food.
it is real food.
Sorry, but
It is real food. How is it not real food? You can tweak the nutrient levels per area if you want to mess with the flavor levels, that's fine. If adding a little bit more nitrogen to the air or changing the material composition or adding a mineral to it will adjust the flavor, then that's fine.
that's not impossible.
So then you just tweak the facility to fit different taste factors. So instead of having all the spinach around the world taste the same, America does this flavor and Europe can do this flavor and, you just put it around.
Are there special varieties that grow hydroponically like this?
Right now, there's a
Has it
select.
actually been done this?
Yes, yeah, the Omega Garden facility is a real business that exists in Canada, in Vancouver, is where it's based out of. And so the system really does exist. He's grown fruits and vegetables with it already. There is a select number of items that can be hydroponically grown, but research is being done to have more and more items grown in that particular fashion because it basically saves the soil. You don't need it, and it uses 1% of the water that would normally be necessary using traditional farming methods.